Welcome back to the dumpster fire that is our max colonization series. Today, we continue over here on Gaseto, where as you can see, everything is going wrong. But I sort of knew that was going to happen. We had to send the away team back to get some more oxygen. They are currently refilling the tanks over here on our home planetoid of Fernial. Notice our new system is doing a great job, and we're able to deliver 4 kilos of oxygen per second. And examining the interior of the rocket to make sure we're good to go for the return flight, I should probably send this pip that we did not end up using maybe back to one of the barracks. I'll even do the same with this one. We'll put this pip in this barracks. Everyone likes to have a good snuggle with a pip, right? But some of the problems that we are seeing, as expected, is the fact that it is slowly still warming up here, which is causing some of the liquid chlorine pipes to crack. We have the pipes under here that have cracked because there's a warm buffer tank sitting on them. I should probably have made these out of maybe an insulated material. That would actually help. The pipes under these tiles here have cracked, again, because there's heat producing machines on top of them. All the plants have stopped growing because no one's here to fertilize them. And the poor gassy moos are utterly full because they have not been milked, or fed, or groomed. But don't worry, they'll be fine until somebody gets back. I also realized I had forgotten to put down a mini pod. I need to start looking for some frost-proof dupes, and what's a little bit more difficult is I need to make sure that at least one of them gets up to Critter Ranching 2 before we send the away team away permanently, because it takes Critter Ranching 2 to use the milking station. But today's objective is going to be getting that nice cooling loop in, finding those dupes, building out their living area, finishing up the industry. For instance, we need to get some compost down, and I think this planetoid will then be done. Oh, that's right, I also need to make sure I tame this chlorine gas vent. We got a little work to do. Here we are turning the clock on cycle 1900, and the rocket is full. Notice that the oxygen system is now refilling the tanks. Really happy with how this system turned out. The only thing I had to do to change it from the first time I showed you is to change these 2 gas reservoirs to be made out of iridium instead of steel. The blast off from the rocket was hot enough that the steel down here didn't like it. Remember, there's still an environment background here that holds the heat a little bit longer than, say, up here that's in the vacuum of space. So I will go ahead and summon the crew, select the destination once again to be Gaseto, and we'll get the away team back on the way. I don't know what's going on with the ESS Colonizer. Their piloting skills just are not up to snuff. And here's an example of what the problem is. Kiku right now has decided to take the controls. Well, Kiko has a piloting of 9. Fallout Stan has a piloting of 23. Clearly, they're the ones that's supposed to be piloting the rocket. So what I'm going to do is, in our duplicant priorities, under the rocketry priority, make sure that the only person that can do the rocketry is Fallout Stan. Unfortunately, Fallout Stan didn't even have rocket piloting, so I need to enable it, and then somehow wait for the autopilot to disengage. There it goes. Now with rocket piloting off, Fallout Stan has piloted the rocket for the first time, and as such, we will get to Gaseto in 1.4 cycles. Much better. Now, whenever we land back on Fernial, all of our storage tiles get refilled. But remember, the big disadvantage with the storage tiles is that they only hold 1 ton of material. So in the rocket, we only have 2 tons of iron, a ton of steel, a ton of plastic, some spare oxalite to help extend the space missions, a couple tons of iron ore, and then a ton of igneous rock. Oh, and also we have some of the feather fibers for repairing the suits. Well, I already know I'm going to have to run a lot of radiant liquid pipes, so I know I'm going to need more than 2 tons of iron. So I'm just going to queue up some more here on Fernial, and all that iron should be able to meet the away team by the time they land on Gaseto. For those of you curious, we are now up to 815 shine bugs sitting in our shine bug reactor. I think eventually I'm going to have to do a culling, because I am very confident that the simulation would do a little bit better if I didn't have so many critters in there. Now, with all that being said, Clay has done some remarkable work on improving the efficiency of the sim. A couple of years ago, there is no way I would have been able to have a shine bug reactor like this be 1900 cycles into this playthrough and on our 5th planetoid. A quick update on numbers, because I'm sure everybody's been curious how the Jabos have done creating us iron ore. Well, we're sitting at 755 tons worth And despite the fact that we have an iron volcano, it still makes sense for me to queue up a quick 99 worth of iron here at the metal refinery, because we're down to 41 tons. On the steel front, we're only sitting at about 214 tons, but remember, we've used a lot across the star map. So I would definitely say I am a big fan of the Jobos, despite the fact that they're always managing to get themselves stuck. Like here's one in the ranch right now that is not doing real well, and is actually slowing down my iron ore production. Get it together, Jobo. And it does look like the rocket and the blast shots are going to make it to Gaseto at around the same time. We have 0.4 cycles here, and 0.3 cycles out of the leading batch. Some other fun numbers around the colony. We are up to 2,783 kilos worth of hydrogen gas pressure in each tile. Bees and Saturn critter traps are truly the gift that keeps on giving. I suppose another fun numbers coming from the fact that we have a pair of volcanoes producing this bunch of igneous rock, and as such, we have 1,800 tons of it on the colony. Alright, enough of the numbers updates. We can see some of the blast shots showing up here on Gaseto. Now we're just waiting for the away team. One thing I did forget to mention that we have to do today is build a small spawn. Right now, the environment on the outside of the ranches is all natural gas. It needs to be completely replaced with oxygen, minus this area here, which I think I'm going to deal with by using a liquid lock of some sorts, or just seal it in. I don't believe we'll ever need to get in here. Here's our away team now. Step 1 is always removing the rocket control station and replacing it with the manual generator. Sadly, the 3 solar panel modules just aren't able to keep up with the power demands inside the rocket. First, the gas output fitting requires a constant 60 watts to keep the suits full. The suits also require power, and then we have the mini gas pump taking out the carbon dioxide inside the rocket. We also have a party line phone that we could get rid of if we really needed to, but it's just as easy to put in the manual generator. Now that the away team's back, all of the gas grass is being fertilized. The rancher is going to come around here soon and start get the gassy moose tamed again. I think step 1 needs to be able to fix the thermals on the Planetoid, and that involves the steam turbine and thermal aqua tuner setup. The question becomes, where do I want to put it? I suppose down here? Now what's going to be the most complicated about this is providing the coolant bath for the thermal aqua tuner in freezing temperatures. Right now it's minus 55 degrees. So what I'm going to do is start working with the Brine. The Brine holds pretty well at 31 degrees inside of the liquid reservoir. As you can see, I've now put everything on insulated tiles, so there'll be even less transfer of thermals. And then we're going to put down our brack wax cleaner so I can get access to that wonderful brine, come out of the liquid reservoir right into the brack wax cleaner. Yes, you can flip it as well. And then from the brack wax cleaner, we're going to have brine, so I need to put down a desalinator to handle it, where we will once again be flipping it. Now temporarily I'm going to split off the brine going into the desalinator because I need a little bit of it to put down here under the water. Remember, brine is heavier than water. And you might have always wondered, why do I always try to put 2 liquids inside of our thermal aqua tuner bath? It's just a time savings. I could fill this entire thing up with 2 layers of water, which then pushes all the gas out, which then I can seal up this chamber, and now we have our nice thermal aqua tuner bath. But that means there would be at least 5,000 kilos worth of water in this area, whereas I don't need that much. I need 50 kilos in each tile, and that 10 tiles means I only need 500 kilos. So I'll drop off just a tiny bit of brine and then a few hundred kilos of water to put on top of the brine. That'll give me my 2 tiles. I can then seal it up. Unfortunately for me, the brack wax cleaner and the desalinator are 480 watts apiece, which means they can't go on this one single strand wire if I wanted to keep this circuit going for long enough. So what I think I'm going to do is separate these 2 networks by adding a couple of more solar panels. This area right up here is perfect for another pair of solar panels. One here and one here. I suppose what I could also do is upgrade all this wire to be conductive wire. I think this would still fit under the 2000 watts, especially when we're done using the exosuit forge. And now that we're done using this liquid pump, because there's no more liquid chlorine that we need to pump over here. And we do have over 8 tons of iron, so we might as well. So yeah, it's going to take a little bit to get all this cleaned up, but I think the result will be worth it in the end. One bad thing about all this fresh iron going in is it's heating this area up, causing the chlorine to flash on the pipes. It's the same standard stuff I've been dealing with for about 50 cycles here. I mean, we even have broken gas pipes because some of the chlorine is turning into a gas and then refreezing in the pipes. Look, it's gonna take a little while, but once we're there, we're gonna be there. Our brack wax cleaner is now operating. Give me the good news. Yes. A little bit of brine coming out, exactly what we want to see. Now, unfortunately, we're also creating a lot of heat. This thing is 8,000 DTUs. I suppose I might as well get another buffer tank here for the outputting water from the desalinator. And here we go, we've got 40 kilos worth of brine. I can now deconstruct the liquid reservoir, and then I'll select brine over here, and hopefully it will stay in its liquid form for long enough for me to get this thing sealed in. I should probably also start building the thermo aqua tuner. We'll put it there. Wonderful liquid pipe thermo sensor to measure the coolant. Liquid bridge for the bypass of coolant that doesn't need to be cooled. And I suppose I'll bring the return loop in through here, over and up. And now I get to decide what I want to cool. Obviously, I need to keep the ranches cold. I'm going to need to tame this. Oh, it's going to be a lot, isn't it? Let me start by going underneath the ranch with some radiance. And maybe I'll just keep going around like this. I can skip over this line. Not too bad. And I'm already out of iron, so I'm just going to keep going and have to ship more over. And I'll sort of just swing around through here to make sure that we're keeping this area nice and chill as well. I'm going to have to keep the compost and all the batteries cold. And then I'm going to have to deal with this tamer, which is going to look a little weird, but something like this. And then I suppose I can finally head back. Oh, wait a minute. Not quite. But I'm going to have to let go of the mouse here because I'm going to need to hit a bridge. But the last little leg of the radiant liquid pipes are going to be keeping the steam turbine cold and then back in. So I can get rid of those. And just as I feared, we didn't do this quick enough and all the brine ice is frozen. Hopefully me putting the hot water down there will help. It does not help that the thermo aqua tuner, which is 1,200 kilos, is sitting at minus 41 degrees. Let me get this thing finished up and see what we can do. Oh, that's right. I need to ship over some more iron as well. And while we're doing that, I think it's finally time to put a mini pod here. Oh, we have so many choices now with mini pods. Let's go with the retro LED mini pod. And I was trying to decide if I wanted to put it here or here. I think this is better looking just because it's centered. And these will be the bathrooms. This will be the barracks. This will be the Great Hall. All these iron pipes are going to heat this place up so quickly. Well, this is a new one for me building thermo aqua tuners. I have liquid carbon dioxide sitting in here, which is going to be more of a problem because the brack wax cleaner is emitting carbon dioxide. I've started prepping a gas pump here. We're going to do the automation thing that says, hey, if it's not oxygen, pump it out. But I have so much that we have to get done first. So I think what I'm going to do is just mop it. Well, if I can get down there to reach it, and then dump it probably in this bottle emptier. Even if it turns into a gas again, I don't care as long as it stays away from here. One of the reasons why I thought it was time to put the mini pod in on this planetoid is because of what's sitting in the pod right now. No, don't get excited, it's not a frost-proof dupe, but it is a nice set of pemmican. This will have the advantage staying fresh 100% of the time. Not that we're going to have a huge problem with meat and everything staying frozen, but while our new dupes are here starting off, they'll have a little backup food supply that will always be shelf stable. Well, this is great. It's raining carbon dioxide, and all my wonderful liquid locks have disappeared for the simple reason that we put the wonderful liquid pipes here, and since they were brand new, they were warm and then heated up the little soft locks. Don't worry, we'll have plenty more pipes break and put the liquid back here in a second. For the steam turbine cooling, I'm just going to use a conduction panel. I've started using these more just because they're pretty clean looking, and as long as you're careful with what you're making the conduction panel out of, in this case it's iron, they work really well. And it'll be especially useful here at the beginning when I don't have much of an atmosphere here. Speaking of which, I should probably get started working on the SPOM. Not that I don't have anything else to do. And I just realized I'm definitely going to need another network in here. I'm going to have to run this thermo aqua tuner, and that's going to be 1,200 watts. It can't even be on the same network as this here, which means I need more power. Yeah, I'm going to get a little bit of hydrogen from the SPOM, I suppose I'm not growing any gas grass over here. So I could put in another solar panel. Granted, I'm sure the gassy moos are going to fly away, but gassy moos do what gassy moos do. And then I'm just going to create a bunch more jumbo batteries, and I'll have 3 solar panels on one network and 3 on the other. It's not a lot of wattage at only 380 watts per, but once we get through the backstock of Brackeen, nothing here is going to require more than 1,000 watts at a time anyways. At least that's the theory. In fact, I'm going to move these batteries over here just to keep them separated, but it does mean I'm going to have to move this cooling loop around a little bit. Oh, wonderful. We now have liquid chlorine in here too. All this will be fixed once we get this cooling loop finished and the power networks separated and the steam turbine and supercoolant loaded. And then it's going to be a real dumpster fire when I'm running hot supercoolant in here for a minute until it gets cooled down by the thermo aqua tuner. I've also added manual generators to these solar panel networks. You don't have to do it. Nothing here has to be on 100% of the time, but since the dupes here are going to have a relatively small amount to do, if the power network ever does get low, well, they can run on the wheel a little bit. Now, this chlorine gas vent does not go dormant for another 32 cycles, but I need to get this cooling loop finished. And it's going to be a pretty simple tamer. I'm just going to seal this area off and then end up putting a liquid pump here. More on that here in a little bit. In fact, I think I can move those around just a smidge. And I'm going to tame this thing just like I would, say, a steam vent. We're going to be doing that by using a bunch of igneous rock temperature shift plates. And that way, as soon as the chlorine gas vent erupts, it hits the temperature shift plates that are going to be very cold. Thank you for bouncing me to Civiol. It is now time for an oxalite meteor pickup. But the temperature shift plates are going to be very cold. It's going to cause the chlorine gas to instantly condense, and then we'll end up pumping it out. Well, once I make sure that we have enough of it. And by enough of it, I mean I need to make sure there's enough of a medium in here to keep all the temperature shift plates cold. And we do that by using a hydro sensor and connect its automation to the liquid pump. So this pump will not start pumping any of that liquid chlorine out until it gets to a certain level. Once it's high enough, then it can. And then when it's time, I'm just going to dump it right back into our liquid pool. Hopefully I get this whole thing done in 31 cycles and I can show you this actually work. But knowing me and this channel, as soon as I finish, this vent's going to go dormant and I won't be able to capture the magic on video. In case anybody's forgotten why I get automated messages that is a meteor shower on Civiol, it's so that I can come and do the dig and sweep up here. Well, I don't even have to do a sweep. I just dig up all the oxalite. The dupes come and get it, and then they automatically drop it here. We're up to 13.5 tons worth of oxalite, and this place is well oxygenated. And you might ask, well, why didn't I just put in some sea miners, i.e. the robo miners, to be able to do it for us? Well, I could have, and that probably would have saved me a little bit of time, but I just didn't. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I already had a cooling loop here. I could have cooled all the robo miners, had the robo miners up here, but it's only once every several cycles. I just got to come up and queue up a dig command. The dupes are never in danger. In fact, old Mr. Alves is singing right now. And the reason why the dupes aren't in danger is because all the oxalite's going off and there's plenty of little pockets of oxygen for them. We have a little bit over 2 tons worth of supercoolant, but notice it's sitting at 25 degrees. I'm going to try to pre-chill this a little bit. I don't know how well this is going to work, but I'm going to move this entire bucket into the bath of minus 76 degree chlorine. I guess we're going to get to see how insulated these little tiny bottles are. Now I know supercoolant has a very high specific heat capacity, but this is just ridiculous. The supercoolant hasn't moved a single degree, and my guess is it's because of the little bottle that it's in. So much for pre-chilling our supercoolant. So I guess all I'm really left with is putting in a bottle drainer and letting that supercoolant heat this entire place up and making a giant dumpster fire. Now, taking a look at our new network, trying to figure out if I can get this thermo aqua tuner on it. Right now it says it has a potential load of 1380. This includes the payload opener, which we're not going to be using, and the exosuit forge, which we're also not going to be using as soon as the away team leaves. So I think we are okay. I'm also going to have the steam turbine on the same network, and this gas pump, and these 2 liquid pumps. It's going to be fine. It's going to be honest. It's going to be great. And these are the 2 last liquid bridges I need to put in to complete this loop. And right now the supercoolant is at 20 degrees. This isn't going to go well. why don't I try getting some of the water in here? Right now we have 1,500 kilos. I don't need all of it, but the goal is to make sure it melts this brine ice so I get my nice 2 layers. Oh, no, 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 no. Do not turn on yet. That would be a big mistake. And just that quick, the thermal aqua tuner is at 90 degrees, which, hey, that could help us. The supercoolant's about to make its way through the branches, and it's only at 5 degrees. Now, granted, it is going to pick up a lot of chill in this area, but supercoolant's a boss. Supercoolant tells the environment what temperature it's going to be, not the other way around. Now, all of our brine is sitting over here in the corner. We got a little bit more here that needs to melt. And as soon as I get a little bit more water in there, it should go over to the brine and then melt it. I'm probably going to have to mop that brine up and re-drop it, because right now it's all sorts of mixed in. The pod has granted us a Marie and an Ellie, and they're both frostproof. There's a couple of problems. Marie is only a builder, and they're building a paired. Ellie is a researcher who's also nyctophobic and flatulent. Granted, there's a lot of natural gas on this planetoid. Okay, who am I kidding? We have to get the Ellie, right? It's just too fitting. Welcome to the series duplicate number 35. I kid you not, Uncle Ben. Yes, Uncle Ben is truly at home with all of the gassy moos. I do need to get Uncle Ben someplace to sleep. I already have their mess table here. And remember, we have all that pemmican for them. They're also going to need someplace to go to the bathroom. And I definitely don't want them to go in here. So I am not going to allow Uncle Ben to go through this door. Oh my goodness, I just realized I completely forgot there's no oxygen here for Uncle Ben. I'm sorry. You can go through the door. I promise. Go through the door, Uncle Ben. No, I understand. I understand it's not light out. I promise. It'll be better in the rocket. Go. So what we're going to do is I'm not going to allow Uncle Ben into the colony. And they will just live in the Spacefarer module for now. Oh boy, that was really close. Who would have thought? Oxygen wasn't included. I told you it was better in the rocket. Granted, there are no nightlights. I've managed to mop up all the brine and the water in here. So I'm going to put the brine back down, hopefully getting a nice smooth layer again, and then I'll put the water, because I really need to get this thermal aqua tuner on. Right now, the coolant's sitting at 13 degrees, which is, of course, causing all sorts of problems. And apparently, there's a little bit of carbon dioxide stuck in this one little tile, and it's preventing the brine from going all the way over. Just more ONI things. So what I'm going to do is deconstruct the thermal aqua tuner, put one tile there, deconstruct the tile, and then put the thermal aqua tuner back. There we go. Now let me hurry up and put the water down, because the water's still nice and warm. Because it's such a small amount of brine, it is much more susceptible to freezing. Once again, I've boogered this up because the bottom layer was going to be brine. I needed more brine than water. So let me get all this mopped up again and go collect a bunch of brine. Unfortunately, none of our gas grasses are growing, so we're not getting any brackine. Okay, I'm just going to fill this whole thing up with water. Back to the drawing board. I'm trying to fill as much of this up with water. Yes, there is a little bit of chlorine here, but if I get enough water in here, it should compress the chlorine enough to where the steam turbine still works, because this isn't working. I can't get enough brine because the gassy moos aren't accumulating very fast. And that they're not doing that because our gas grass isn't growing, and that's because the liquid chlorine keeps cracking in the pipes, because it's getting too warm in here. Well, I've certainly never filled a steam turbine chamber with chlorine and water, but I'm here for it. Let's turn the thermal aqua tuner on. By the way, after the 2 tons worth of supercoolant, we do still have some gaps, but I don't think it's a big deal. The loop's probably about 70% full. To start off with, I have the thermosensor set at minus 45 degrees. Remember, I didn't want to go the full minus 50 because the gassy moos prefer a temperature range of minus 50 to 50. The most important factor, though, is to make sure that chlorine stays as a liquid, and that happens at minus 34. So minus 45 should be great. Things are starting to calm down a little bit. Our thermal aqua tuner bath still hasn't turned to steam. It is about to. That's going to be wonderful to see if that actually worked, or if I'm going to have to start all over again. I have put the gas pump in here now that we're re-liquefying all the chlorine, slowly but steadily on the cooling loop. I need to get all these other gases out of here, which means it's probably good if I start it on the SPOM now too. Our chlorine gas vent is sealed up and tamed. Right now the gas in there is sitting around minus 30, slow but steady. let me get working on the spalm while the cooling loop lowers the temp in here, and I'll give you another update here in a minute. Good news on the steam turbine front. We have a complete steam chamber, and as we guessed, the chlorine was compressed. And what's great is chlorine's heavier than steam, so the steam turbine is still going to work just as perfectly as it always does. Remember, the only thing that's important is that these vents are touching the steam, and our supercoolant is now at minus 46 degrees. I've taken the precaution of moving the exosuit forge over to this network and taking it off of this network for the time being, just because I'm also putting the spalm on this network. Ooh, maybe that's not a good idea. Strike that, I'm putting the spalm on this network. Now the potential load's only at 2350, which is still a little higher than I want. You never want thermo aqua tuners to be on the network that's over 2000 watts, because if one of the wires fries, out here it's not a big deal. If this wire right here fries, well, then you're in a world of hurt. We hardly ever use the door. That's 120 watts. This gas pump is going to be the issue. I tell you what we're going to do out of an abundance of caution. I'm going to move this gas pump that's taking all these ugly gases from around the colony. I'm going to move it over here. We already have a pipe, so all I have to do is really move the automation. And that way, this gas pump will stay on this network. Okay, things have calmed down a little bit. We're doing okay. We're doing okay. I'm telling myself that too, you know, as positive reinforcement. We need to have a conversation about dirt, for the reason being that the gas grasses require 25 kilos per cycle, and we have 15 gas grasses just over here, which means I have a requirement of 375 kilos worth of dirt per cycle. That is before we start talking about plant husks. The long and short of it is, we're going to be taking the gas grass and using some of its plant husk to create dirt. In fact, if we go to the database, we can go under gas grass and we can see that a properly fed gas grass is going to give us 100 kilos worth of plant husk per cycle. Well, if we take that plant husk and throw it into a compost, any 100 grams worth of compost turns into 100 grams worth of dirt. There's a small issue. You have to actually manually mark the plant husks for compost. So I'm going to have to add that on my list of chores to do once per every, 15 cycles. But since I have 5 gas grasses, and we know each gas grass gives us 100 kilos worth of plant husk per cycle, means I can get 500 kilos worth of dirt per cycle. And this is the magic number. Because yes, we only need 375 to keep these gas grasses going. I'm also going to need another 125 kilos to keep these gas grasses going, which that is way too close for comfort for me. But remember, I'm also going to have 2 duplicants using the outhouses, creating their own polluted dirt, which will also go inside of the composts. The last subject about dirt that we need to talk about is keeping in mind that a compost can only compost 100 grams per second, or 60 kilos per cycle. So in order to get my 500 kilos worth of dirt I need per cycle, I'm going to need over 8 composts, 8.33 to be precise. So we're going to put down 9 composts. Next up on the docket is getting the SPOM. Well, not SPOM, just It's just an oxygen machine. It's not self-powered. Yes, I do see the liquid chlorine in here. And while yes, this is probably the most minimal effort you can put into a it's very simple and it just works. We have an electrolyzer being fed with the water coming from the desalinator, coming from the brine, coming from the brackwax cleaner, coming from the brackine of the gassy moos, providing the water. From there, the electrolyzer just keeps doing its work, and I have a gas pump that says, hey, just keep taking everything you can out. So we'll get a mix of oxygen and hydrogen. The gas filter will send the hydrogen to the hydrogen generator. The oxygen goes out to the environment. We don't care about cooling this. We have a supercoolant line doing that for us. Now, right now, there is a little bit of chlorine at the bottom here. So what I think I'm going to do is turn off the electrolyzer and allow the gas pump to pump everything out. And then I'll turn it back on just to make the process a little bit cleaner. But the good news is Uncle Ben will have some oxygen to breathe around here. I have the vents going to the living area and then down here to the industry area. No big deal here. About the last thing I have to do is clean up the ranches a little bit. Now that we're ensuring all the chlorine isn't going to flash in the pipes anymore, I have to get rid of all the excess chlorine that is liquefied. And the reason why is because it's actually stopping the light from going through the ranches. I'm going to be very careful with my mop though. I do not want to mop here because then it'll mop up our soft lock. So I'm actually going to move one over and mop up everything over there. And now that we have it mopped up, it looks a little bit better. So something I've learned is I believe the glass limits the amount of light coming through it. And because we're stacked 3 high, I think we're reducing the amount of light that's making it to all the gas grass. As an example, the light here just goes all the way through because, well, glass allows light through. Here it's not doing the same. I've never really seen this as an issue. Very weird interactions with light. I am happy to report that I was able to show you the progress on the chlorine gas vent tamer. Yeah, there's still a little bit of environment in there with the natural gas. That doesn't really bother me at all. What does bother me is the fact that apparently I did not use radiant liquid pipes throughout the whole thing, but it's still plenty cold in here and the hydro sensor is just waiting for it to get above 500 kilos and then it'll start dumping all of that liquid chlorine into the big tank. Not that it's a big deal. This tank is going to last us a lot longer than I will ever be playing this game. I did have the dupes ship over a little bit more super coolant. Notice that we're having to manually open the payloads because I've already gotten rid of the payload opener in lieu of a nice electric grill. That way Uncle Ben and friend, whoever they may be, will be able to make some barbecue. And now that there's oxygen in here, we've assigned Uncle Ben their quote cot. They also have their own outhouse and their own mess table. Incidentally, I've not allowed Uncle Ben to go through this airlock anymore. I still can't figure this out. My guess is maybe the glass tiles don't allow 100% of the light through. I'm going to test that theory by just putting in some mesh tiles instead. I mean, I don't even care if this is mesh tiles up here, because all of this can remain in a vacuum. Actually, this is bright enough. I still want some environment in here, because it'll help transfer the thermals. And it looks like my theory is correct. Now that I've replaced it with mesh tiles, that light is coming through 100%. I've got some more iron ore being shipped from the home Planetoid. No big deal. For now, I'm just going to allow Uncle Ben to skill up. They're either going to be the cook or the rancher. I'm also going to wait for another frost-proof dupe. Who knows how long that's going to take. But fear not, we still have a decent amount of oxygen here in our rocket. That way the away team can stay here and support Ben during the transition period. I'm sure by the time we have another episode, I'll have another frost-proof dupe to introduce you to, but for now, I think this is about it on Gaseto. I'll give you an update in 100 or 200 cycles. That way we can validate that all of our systems are still working, but so far, it looks pretty good. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about this video in the comments below, and if you're looking for something else to say, why don't you let me know what you're most looking forward to, what's remaining in this series. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.